Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This channel will be talk about the e-learning course for ELT. Before that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Maitri Lindayani. Today, as I said before, I would like to talk about e-learning course for ELT. So there are 10 questions that related about e-learning course. The first question is what is online learning? Explain also synchronous and asynchronous. And then the basic features of an LMS. And then as an online course teacher, give an example of a good introduction rating for one topic. The fourth is why online material must be attractive, and then types of online learning activities, and then online discussions is one important element in online learning. Sometimes it may not work well. How does a teacher optimize discussions? And the seventh, provide an example of a learning resource that can be used to engage learner in online learning. The eighth is an example of effective assessment in English online teaching and learning. And the ninth is the basic elements to consider when building an online course. And the tenth is an example of one online lesson in the class for one meeting. Okay, I would like to discuss the first questions is about what is online learnings and also explain about synchronous and asynchronous learnings. Here, online learning is a learning when we study or learn something but you are not in the same locations with your teachers or the other students. Online learning that uses network technologies to deliver teaching and learning. Online learning that involves in the course is an internet and through online assignment and learning process. In online learning, they are divided into two categories. The first category is synchronous and then asynchronous. Asynchronous is this learning uses the virtual class which allows students to ask and answer teachers' questions instantly. This learning involves online studies through chat and video conferencing, and also the kind of learning tools is in real time. On the other hand, asynchronous. This learning can be carried out even while the student is offline. This learning involves coursework delivered via web, email, and message board that are deposited on online forms. The next is the basic features of an LMS. LMS is Learning Management Systems. There are the basic features of an LMS. The first is announcement, the second syllabus, the third lesson, and then discussion forums, drop boxes or assignment upload, and then resources, gradebook, and course mail. The first is about announcement. This is the example of announcements. Announcements is usually the first thing students see when entering an online course. It is the place where the teacher communicates important updates to the class. The next is syllabus. This is the example of syllabus. Syllabus is after you're reading the announcements, don't forget you must be look the syllabus. This is for the students to review the course, and then it is an essential component of the course environment. It is provides structure for the course and outlines course expectation. The next is lesson. This is the example of lessons. Lessons for the online lessons replace the lectures, discussions, and activities that may take place in an on-site classroom. The lessons are the core instructional containers for the course. The next is discussions forums. This is the example of discussions forums. In this discussion forums is an asynchronous communication tool that allows for the exchange of ideas and also through the use of a message board format. The next is drop boxes and assignment upload. This is the example of drop boxes or assignment upload. This is Dropboxes is to submit assignment, and also the teacher may require the students to upload their document to an online Dropbox. A Dropbox is a digital space in which documents and then presentations, links to website, and more can be uploaded by the students. The next is resources. So resources is digital course reading and references are organized in sections. And the next is gradebook. Gradebook is to communicate grades and feedback to learners. It is a tool that displays students' attendance, participations, assignments, and etc. The next is course mail. This is the example of course mail. Course mail is to send an important message to students. Okay, the next question is about as an online course, teachers give the example of a good introduction writing for one topic. So this is the example of introductions in online course. So I will read it for you. So for the example, hello class, hopefully everyone is doing fine. I will announce a short project that you must complete in this week. You will need to take a 7-minute video recording presentation in pair about the topic is methodology of language teaching. This should be complete sooner so that you can submit the recording on Tuesday at 10 p.m. and send it in our course in Schoology. Thank you and good luck class. So this online course will be have the good introductions for one topic in the online class. So I will give you the several tips to make the good introductions in online course. So the first is keep your introduction short and clear. And then say hello and give a little bit of information about yourself. So don't forget, you don't say anything too private or personal. So that's very important. And the third is you can say what you hope to get or learn. And then wish people good luck. And don't forget to say thank you. And then you don't have to write full sentences of your introductions. So the next question is about why online materials must be attractive. What elements are needed? So while online materials must be attractive, so the reasons is online learning must be attractive because the students can learn something new, like the students can know the using of multimedia or technology. Also, to engage students' participation in online learning. So what elements are needed? Okay, the first is rationales for good visual designs. So this support understanding through simplicity, clarity, and also organizations. And the next is visual design online. So the classroom teacher in some fields depend on using the visual in the classroom. So when you're working online, so we must keep in mind that content presented in test in visual as well in working online. And the next is page layout. So there are several parts of page layout. The first is spaces surrounding text, line length, justifications, and headings and subheadings. In the spaces surrounding text, the spaces between lines and paragraphs provides well space. It gives the readers a visual break. And then line length. And then the justifications, always use left justified text with rigid right margins as we have in this guide. And then headings and subheadings. Heading and subheading signals the organization of the content. And the next is text. Also, there are several parts of the text. So the first is typefaces, type size, bold and italic, underlining, avoid using all caps and color. The first is typefaces. This is important to keep in mind that typefaces online have a much lower resolution than typefaces on paper. And then type size. Type size is help the reader easier to read clear and suggest to use normal size at least 12 size. And then bold and italic use sparingly can use very effective for emphasis when used sparingly. Italic used for details of words or intenses as usual. And then the next is underlining. Underlining usually used for make hyperlink. And then avoid using all caps. This should only be used for scrimmage and avoid using them for emphasis. They are not as readable as lowercase letters because they are for universal in size. And the next is color. Color is very important also. So the color can make an impact if it used with care. Save lighter colors for special emphasis such as highlighting, so contrast is important factor in readability. And the next is graphic elements. So also there are several parts of graphic elements. The first is symbols and icons, bullets and numbers in a series, and then visual design basic in the online class. So the first is symbols and icons. That's very useful in signaling small elements in website that appear over and over again. And then the next is bullets and numbers in a series. So this says part items that can be listed. Numbers are used in identifying sequential steps in a task or process, and also used for rankings, and bullets are used to highlight a series of items that are not prioritized or sequential. And the next is visual design basic in the online class. So you can follow most of standards we have laid out for type, justifications, heading, bullets, or numbers very easily. And the next is about types of online learning activities and provide relevant technological tools for the types. So there are 6 types of online learning activities and provide relevant technology tools. What technology tools that used for these online learning activities? So for the first is class discussions. So the technological tool, we can use discussion forum. So it can be in the discussion forum, you can use the topic discussions, question and answer, and also it can be done in pair or pool. And the second is online journal writings. So in the online journal writings, the technical tool, we can use the blog. So in blog, you can use individual reflections, teacher reflections, and also modeling individually. And the next is shared knowledge base. So in these learning activities, we can use technological tools like wiki. So in a wiki, we can use the collaborative glossary, and it can be to group or full class. And the next is practice exercises. We can use a technological tool is testing or quizzing. So it can be with a multiple choice or self-assessment, and also in individually or pair. And the next is group projects. We can use a technological tool like group work, wikis, blogs, or discussions forums. So it can be, we can in the form of group presentations, group project, individually, pairs, full class. And the last is receptive activities. We can use technological tools like podcasts, YouTube, Google presentations. So it can be, we can use audio or video presentations here for the YouTube or podcast, and then course using audio, and the last is done individually. And the sixth questions is about online discussion is one important element in online learning. Sometimes it may not work well. How does a teacher optimize discussions? So of course, in the online discussion is have those several important elements in online learning, like as I said before. So we can use the several way to optimize discussions, like good instructions and give positive feedback directly and give some bonus point. The next is the seventh question is provide an example of a learning resource that can be used to engage learning in online learning. So there are the several items of a learning resources. So I choose one of the learning resource like use the video. Uh, this video can use to engage learner in online learnings. So for the example,
Hello students, how are you today? Hopefully you are fine. Now I would like to explain about material for today. The material is about recount text. There are several things that we are going to learn.
okay, that's the example of the learning resource. I choose the video for the learning resource in the online class. So this video is about the recontext. This video also about the tutorial and animation video to the students. Okay. The next question is an example of effective assessment in English online teaching and learning. Pick one or the interrogations or more than one language skill. Okay, for the effective assessment in English online teaching and learning, I use also the topic is about recontext and I pick one language skill is speaking. So there are learning objective and assessment. So the first learning objective uh, I use for the students are able to tell natural phenomenon story in the form of explanation about the topic of best experience in recontext. And the assessment is to tell natural phenomenon story in the form of explanation about the topic of best experience in recontext. So I use the procedure is product and type is spoken. And also I use the instrument. Please make a story of your best experience by using good and correct pronunciation and grammar in orally. And then the next question is about the basic elements to consider when building an online course. So there are four basic elements. So the first is learning outcomes and an online syllabus, course outline, and assessment. So in the learning outcomes, so are at the core of the process that creates courses and programs that follows through on their premises. And the next is an online syllabus contains a very detailed course outline and a true explanation of how the online course is organized and will operate. And the next is course outline, a calendar that presents a sequence of learning activities and an assessment. Point out the assignment to measure your content to make the students are success in learning process. So all of that is very important to building an online course. The next is an example of one online lesson in your class for one meeting. So this is the example of online lessons for one meeting. So I pick in my class is a lesson is about drama. So this is there is uh, online lessons, the example of online lessons. So the lecturer give us to make a discussions of the about the drama. So the lecturer asks us like please start a discussion as the last time. Please write what you think about the play. You can talk about the story or plot, the characters or other aspect of drama. Please be active in replying the posting made by your friends. Remember, I can see the statistic of your participations. So this is the instructions about the online lessons class for one meeting. So this the example of online lesson. Okay, thank you very much. So that's all about my explanation about the 10 questions that related about the e-learning course for ELT. So thank you for watching my video. See you next time.